Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us today. Our webinar organized by KIZAD in partnership with ICC UAE and National Association of Freight and Logistics. We will commence in less than 2 minutes. Please stay with us. Thank you very much and very warm welcome to everybody for joining us today at our webinar on multimodal logistics and industry ecosystem for global supply chain solution organized by KIZAD in partnership with ICC UAE and National Association of Freight and Logistics. The webinar will be for 1 hour and it will be moderated by Vincent O'Brien, who is the director of ICC UAE. So now I'll hand over to Vincent O'Brien. Over to you, Mr. O'Brien.
Well, thank you very, very much, Habib, and welcome everyone to this very interesting and timely webinar on multimodal logistics and industrial ecosystem for the global supply chain, Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. You've all seen the program and you've seen that we really have a great lineup of speakers. So I'm not going to mention all their names right now, but we're going to get right underway with the program. So I'm going to call on Mansour Al-Marmar, Director Commercial KIZAD, to give us the welcome address and maybe set the scene for what we can expect from our expert speakers. And over to you, Mansour. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vincent, and it's indeed a great pleasure to gather around the screen this time to talk about this very interesting and important subject that really was a highlight during the amid of the Corona and the COVID in 2020. So just to not take much time and start with my very humble and short welcome speech. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Last year, we have all been through a period that saw businesses and consumers going through tremendous changes in the supply chains with unprecedented challenges. While there has indeed been global turmoil across industries and economies having to quickly adapt and respond, I think the one industry that has had itself together and come up with innovation and radically changed the way it operated and as a result came out stronger has been the logistics business. The manner in which supply chains around the world have changed, adopted digitally, agility, and ensured that the products reach the consumer in time, all times has clearly shown yet again that the challenges always also create opportunities. Sheltered, efficient, contactless deliveries and pickups became the preferred mode of interaction across various consumer touchpoints. And how well has the supply chain in general responded in the shortest time? We have also seen B2B going through major challenges and come to a halt, while B2C emerged as a winner during the pandemic, upsurging the online sales of commodities of daily use or costlier ones. As we've seen also last year, and as lockdowns have started to ease towards the end of the year and people have started to venture out of their homes, the question that all organizations today face is how they can adapt further and how they will and can anticipate new consumer behavior and ultimately provide those solutions with services and products, differentiating them from others. Seems a tall order when you hear it, but if the global response we have seen, especially in the logistics segment, is anything to go by, we have more reasons to feel positive than otherwise. The faster the companies can integrate their products and services with greater digital ability, the safer their business models would become, and this forms the core of today's webinar dedicated to the logistics industry. I'm very excited to hear what my fellow distinguished panelists have to say today and how we can all continue to learn, track, and sharpen our platform as we move forward with more positivity in our plans and ambitions for the future. Finally, I would like to thank NAFL and ICC for co-hosting this event with us and the panelists for giving this session their valuable time. I look forward to the session and thank you all for being with us today. Over to you, Vincent.
Thank you very much, Mansour. You really set the scene very nicely for us, and you set up a very nice backdrop for our next speaker, like highlighting the challenges we've come through, but you have an optimistic tone as well, so that's really welcome. So moving on to our next speaker, who I'm delighted to introduce, and it's Nadia Aziz, who's president of NAFL and also vice president of the FIATA for the region, and really important to me, she's also the chair of the ICC Trade Facilitation Commission. So Nadia, we're very interested in hearing about these challenges, but more so I think we're interested in hearing about the opportunities. So Nadia, please.
First and foremost, I'd like to thank everybody who put this event together and all our delegates who have come from across the world. We are not limited only to NAFL members and the local community within the UAE. So I appreciate all our international delegates who've joined us. Now, my name is Nadia, as the head of the National Association of Freight and Logistics, and heading the ICC Custom and Trade Facilitation, as well as Women in Logistics for the Middle East. There are a lot of opportunities that we must capture. We must be positive. Of course, our industry is seen as one of the most critical industries. And indeed, this has proven to be very true during the time of crisis. So we'll start off by basic things about Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi is the capital of the UAE. It has the largest land area. All the federal decisions, important federal decisions related to our industry and the trade and legislation is taking place in Abu Dhabi. So basically for us as logisticians, it's very important in terms of its strategic location, in terms of its government support to the industry. It's great. And you will see that when I'll speak about the stimulus programs and the support by the government to the investors locally and international investors. We look at it also as being one of the important trade enablers in the region. The UAE is seen one of the best places to set up your business within the Arab world. And you can set up your business for the international delegates in a couple of hours, where your desk is ready, you're connected, and you're up for business. So some of the transformational changes in the Abu Dhabi economy is moving away from the dependency on the oil and gas sector and diversifying the economy on renewable energy, green energy, manufacturing. Also, one of the most important pillars is also logistics. And this is not only for the UAE and Abu Dhabi, but also our neighboring countries within the Gulf Cooperation countries. They have noticed the importance of logistics in enhancing the country's trade and putting you higher on the investment index and attracting more foreign investors. So Abu Dhabi has invested heavily in logistics. The Khalifa port, which is adjacent to KIZAD, which is the free zone area, has huge changes. There is huge capacity changes within the port area, which is ideal for our logisticians, whether regionally and locally. And also, not only that, it's the subsidies and support by the government for the foreign investors. You will see the top shipping lines in the world are working fully and operational in Khalifa Port, MSC Shipping, and COSCO, the largest Chinese shipping line, has its own port terminal in Khalifa Port. And also, as you know, China is our #1 trading partner. So it gives you the importance of the region, the importance of the free zone. It is part of the One Belt, One Road initiatives. We will be connecting through that. We are having huge manufacturing and a lot of Chinese companies that are going to be manufacturing within the KIZAD free zone and other areas within the UAE. Of course, the stimulus program, more than 60 billion US dollars, the highest amongst all the GCC regions. Abu Dhabi has airport expansions. Its airline is one of the award-winning top global airlines, and we have the top officials from the cargo and the aviation division who will be speaking with us. The open skies policy will help you get connected because we have all of the international airlines available. And right now, due to COVID, Abu Dhabi also has a huge space in KIZAD, a cold store with more than 70 million vaccines capacity that can be stored at one go over a 19,000 meter square area. So this is just in a nutshell. My colleagues from the other government entities will give you a better picture of what you can do with this place, how you as a trader, as a manufacturer, as a logistic company, or also as an exporter can benefit from the KIZAD free zone and an industrial cluster, as well as the multimodal logistics services that the capital offers. As I said, we are going to have our chapter. We are a UAE non-profit organization that can connect you to 150 countries under the FIATA Global Chapter. We will be expanding our office premises into Abu Dhabi, so we will have a full-fledged Abu Dhabi chapter with the full services offered to our Abu Dhabi members, and we will be collaborating very closely with the government, with KIZAD. Our relationship goes over the years. We will be making sure that all the companies within KIZAD and our members get our full support, whether it is in capacity building, training, networking, global or regional exhibitions, as well as short and long courses. We're offering courses that are certified and recognized globally, FIATA diploma, and we are able to offer CILT diploma, as well as International Chamber of Commerce courses with their certification. So we are not limited to anything. Any kind of training you need, whether you are based in the UAE or you're abroad, we are able to fulfill these requirements. Some of the things that we will be offering in addition to the consultancy services, legal consultancy is new IT applications, which creates a marketplace for logisticians, for shipping lines, for the airlines, as well as for the traders, where you will be able to get the rates immediately, insurance rates, participate in bids, credit shield, etc. on these new web portals that we have. As I mentioned, we will have a full secretariat support, office meetings, and we will be working closer with the government of Abu Dhabi, the ports, Multi-Modal Gateway, Abu Dhabi, the national airlines, Etihad Aviation Group, as well as, of course, KIZAD. With the main mandate is to solve your industry issues and work on any opportunities that we can have together. The ideal scenario here in KIZAD is, because it's new, because it's growing, the management team is sincerely very close and works very closely to the investors. So this is something I've seen that it's a very positive sign, and there was immense support during the crisis period and beyond, which our colleagues will be speaking about. As I mentioned, we do have work with the Abu Dhabi Maritime Academy. So even the maritime people can join us if they'd like any training courses. We've signed already MOUs with various Abu Dhabi government offices. Some of the things that investors need to bear in mind is that when you're setting up within KIZAD, there's huge and immense utility bills reduction when compared to various Emirates. As I mentioned, subsidies, rates are stable, and there was a 6-month waiver within the rent during the COVID crisis and beyond. So there's unlimited possibilities. You are close to the manufacturing companies, and the competition is not as fierce as it is in other areas. So you're not fighting for a $5 or $10 rate between you and your competitor. It's a decision that you should think about. All this extra capacity, do I want a piece of this market share, or do I leave it for the competition? So basically, these are the things that we're doing. I'll move on to a brief about the market view within our industry for the UAE and our region. Of course, as I mentioned, the economies are moving away from their dependency on oil. There is a lot of legislation changes within and reforms within the tax, within having better investment climate for the foreign investors, and more work with the private sector along with the government. Huge dependency and work on the IT solutions and IT technologies. I would say the two countries that have really adopted technology during the crisis and beyond are Saudi Arabia and UAE. And they have really benefited, and you would see smarter technologies, single windows such as Multi-Modal Gateway, Fasih in Saudi Arabia, and in Dubai, it's Dubai Trade. So these things have helped the UAE to facilitate trade and get your cargo fast and efficiently. Even during the border, there has been tremendous work with the IT sector to facilitate the land transport exports to the neighboring countries. Because of the strong measures taken for the COVID virus, initially, it had disrupted the market, it had dipped the market. However, in Q3 2020, the market has recovered and is going back and growing. And I will be showing you a few slides about the market recovery and when is it going to be positive. So as I mentioned, a lot of humanitarian aid has gone out from the humanitarian logistics cities within the UAE, from Abu Dhabi also, and it shows you how the national airlines have played an integral role in supporting not only the UAE in crisis, but all of our neighboring countries and international destinations. Before we go to the graphs, as I mentioned, because of the COVID, we have seen growth in the e-commerce and last mile delivery more than threefold. During the COVID, of course, a lot of you have probably complained about high prices in the air freight or sea freight. The air freight was rising up to 2 to 3 times of the actual rate, and then now it's going back to normal. But this is what we saw. As you can see, we have put all the various regions on the graphs. The Middle East will be recovering in terms of GDP and the economy on a positive note in Q2 2021. Whereas, as you can see, Asia Pacific, they have recovered much earlier in Q1 and end of Q4 because they were very capable of controlling the virus and opening up also their economies once things were under place. Some of the things that disrupted our business, plant closures, disruptions in demand supply, and of course, cargo space. There was problems with the space on the planes and on the ships. There was huge pressure on them. Disruptions, a lot of the aircrafts were off, trucks were non-operational for a lot of the time, and this all caused backlog and disrupted the industry. However, as mentioned here, in the global economy, on an optimistic level, if you look at the growth, it will be in Q2, and on an optimistic side, the growth will recover around 8% by 2021. If you are on the pessimistic side, it will range between 5% to 7%. But it is looking better than it used to be. So let us be on the positive note. As you can see here, I've clustered various economic indicators for the region. We are moving away from dependency on the oil sector, as you can see, the UAE, and looking at more exporting and manufacturing, and some of the trading partners listed there. The same goes also for Saudi Arabia. They have more on manufacturing, and their 2030 vision is also focusing also on logistics. And in terms of traders, there is a lot of movement going on between the UAE and Saudi. For global companies, they use the UAE as a logistic hub and re-export the goods to feed the other regions. These are also some of the areas where certain changes, oil prices have reduced the government spending globally, and people have depended more on e-commerce and technology and use of technology to get their things done. And all of this is, of course, the impact of COVID, but this will continue to affect our consumer habits in the future. But all the region is looking at developing the infrastructure and being a logistic hub. In general, if you look at the entire region, in the GCC region and the Gulf countries, predominantly the two main market players by size, I'm talking, are the UAE and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia being a huge country with a huger population, and the UAE being one of the first class countries that offers you top-notch airport services, cargo services, land transportation, soft and hard infrastructure. Now, the industry within the GCC country is rated around 83.04 billion US dollars, and 83% of that cargo is contributed and comes from Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. And I have clustered them for you depending on the type of transport. As you can see, freight transportation, more than 64% for 47.8 billion US dollars, and the rest. Also, as you can see, storage and warehousing is growing in the market. When you look, as I said, the size of the market, you can still see the predominant position of the United Arab Emirates, the second top cargo player in the region. But if you look at our size, we are really small, but we really have exceeded the limits, and we are looking to grow this market and build on this. And when we say this, this is where you come in, and where you can benefit from the infrastructure that we have, be it the soft infrastructure or the hard infrastructure. In terms of air cargo, as you can see, the Middle East is in a position of number 4, contributes to 13% of the global cargo. The two countries that really predominantly bring in most of the cargo are Saudi Arabia and UAE, which are in the top 3. As you can see here, the cargo handled by airports, the UAE, whether it is Abu Dhabi or Dubai, is amongst the top 2 for the entire region. So we handle the major tonnage for air cargo in our region, and as you can see, high investments in the airports. Our neighboring countries are also have various investments and expansions in the airports as well as their airlines. So if you're looking at this market, this is the ideal market. The logistic industry is surviving. However, during COVID, the digital and telecom industry and the food industry and e-retail is booming, as I mentioned, and the opportunity lies also between e-commerce and logistics. Logistics is going to deliver your e-commerce. So these are the two main areas to keep an eye on. We, amongst the Middle East region, have the highest government stimulus program, so more than 60 billion US dollars. And this is a map to give you an idea about all the countries and the stimulus packages to help the investors sustain their industry. So be confident that you will get support as an investor if you are setting up in the UAE. Now, some of the things that also disrupted our industry and caused some congestions due to COVID and new rules and regulations that took place because of COVID have disrupted the industry, have increased the price. For example, the demand for air freight, the prices in sea freight as well as air freight, border delays and border closures have all contributed to the negative impact of COVID. However, we will be recovering, so be on the positive side. And as I mentioned, the opportunities for growth are diversifying the economy, working on e-commerce, reducing our costs for transportation, utilizing technology. And as I mentioned, the UAE is a transshipment hub. So Abu Dhabi can be your best transshipment hub to reach out to Africa or other countries, Central Asia. And a lot of pharmaceutical business is being moved. And we are being one of the pioneering countries to support in distributing the COVID vaccines to the rest of the world, because you are connected to 2/3 of the global population in less than 8 hours from the United Arab Emirates. So thank you very much. And I'd like to just tell you, if you are an outside company looking at the UAE market, or you are a member or a potential investor or a trader, please feel free to contact us, because we are a non-profit organization. We're here to support you. We will connect you with the right government bodies to ensure that your business thrives. Thank you very much, and I hope all of you have a positive day. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Nadia. Such a wonderful presentation, so much content in such a very short period of time. Following on from Mansour's wonderful introduction, the story is really unfolding. And as you said, we have many, many participants. We've more than 120 from many, many different countries, so they are really, really appreciated. In your presentation, you mentioned the role of technology and technology facilitating trade. So that's where our story is going to actually go now. So I'm going to turn to our next speaker, Carl Hemmers, who's CEO of Magta Gateway. And Carl, you know, could you give us some insights on the possibilities for KIZAD's clients or beyond for using the Magta platform to promote their trade in this multimodal environment? Carl.
Region is something else and quite something to follow. So thank you, Nadia. And I think very much around the positivity and the constructive way that the Emirate and the seniors here approach our trade. As Magta Gateway, as part of the Abu Dhabi Ports group, we've been awarded the mandate to deliver the single logistics platform, or the single trade logistics platform, ATLP, here in the region. It will be the first single window in the region. Will follow on from us having put the first PCS, the port community system, here in the region, and obviously now supporting Khalifa as the first semi-automated port in the region. So technology flows through the blood, very much here of the Emirate of Abu Dhabi, but also its companies, and it's great that you'll hear more of this as we go through. Magta's name comes from the first bridge that joined the islands to the mainland here, and I think it's very apt as Magta aims to join and to bridge technology to its industry and to its partners here in the region. Really, PCS was the beginning of that, but now as we stretch out into single window, this gives us the ability to provide a single source for all of the trade partners and all of our governmental partners, all of our trade partners here in the region, truly digitizing trade and truly driving that digital adoption here in the region. It means we can give very easy access to information through a single window. Everything should be quicker and smoother and easier as we're dealing with digital transactions. There's a surety as digital drives consistency and habit and procedure. And obviously we'll work very hard with our partners to ensure that we're lowering trade barriers wherever possible and making trade simple and accessible to all here in the region. Hopefully for our stakeholders, it means less resource. So we can simplify procedure, we can bring things to the table in a much simpler manner. We improve the level of service, so we become a place that's known for trade. The quality and the standards that we adhere to are extremely high. And of course, security is absolutely key to the development and the existence of a single window. And so we look very much at some of our partners overseas for best practice. But in terms of what we want to deliver, we're aiming to be the #1 single window in the world. So we have very high aspirations. Coming back to why we're on this call, really, and our team at KIZAD is one of our largest partners. Obviously, its proclivity to KIZAD means that it's very busy in terms of trade. It's being very close to there means we facilitate an awful lot of activity. Some 108 services, in fact, are now existing on the portal. So these are things that you can do automated. These are places you can log in and go about your work, free and easy. Of those 108, 36 of them are now dedicated to Free Zone and its customers and its facilitation. And you can see just in this very simple deck that this looks at government and NOC. This is around licensing and really simplifying the license process and speeding it up. And also importantly around employee services. So this is our foreign licensing, which can all be done here with us on the portal. Although we do support you still in person as well, because we love to see you. But the wish is that it does come through the portal. This is only the beginning for us. So when you look now that we're in the hundreds of services, really our aspiration sees us go to 600 plus services, as you can see in this slide. The thing that I love about that is only 20% of it is connecting the government, whereas 80% of it is us working with our trade partners. It's really great to hear from Nadia and NAFL in terms of the way they support this and drive adoption and drive the people coming here in the first place. But once you're here, it's so easy to connect. And the aim of Single Window is to build on from the port community system, as we said. So the PCS was kind of the early phases of how we bring this together. Now, with the advanced trade logistics platform, this really takes us to the next level. And as you can see from this slightly busy slide, You know, we're aiming now to come off the ports and connect the airport. And in fact, we're already in the live stages with Etihad and our partners at the airport, joining together the systems and customs and ground handling, etc., as you would expect, all into a single point. It's allowing us to do things like sea air much simpler. So through some of our platforms like Margo, you can come now and do sea air shipments with us. We're working on things like a very interesting project with e-seals and electronic seals, creating a digital corridor between Khalifa Port and KIZAD. So again, customs and the processes traveling between those 2 points become much simpler. We're very much looking forward to partnering with our friends at Etihad Rail as they become part of our ecosystem. Like Vincent, I'm a bit of a soft spot for trains, so I can't wait for them to come into the system. I've spent a long part of my career in Asia and some of the interesting rail journeys around the Asia Pacific region. I'm hoping that we can now start to replicate here in our region. So Vincent, you and I will be on those together, I think.
Great.
And obviously our land borders are significant, right? They really span our borders. They really drive connectivity, and us joining together the land, the sea and the air, both by truck and rail, are going to be a major accomplishment for us in the coming year. The top shows you the partners that are already engaged and involved with us. And Zones Corp obviously form a very large part of our offering in terms of facilitating trade, bringing business into the region, facilitating trade for those companies when they get here, as well as making life a lot more simple while you're here. The people already that we're working with, you can see across this screen. It just really is to show the breadth of who we're working alongside, who we're supporting, and who is supporting us. This is very much an ecosystem. This is very much a digitalization of trade that we're driving, and this is very much a platform for the for the people here to come. And it's something we're excited to share as it grows, not only over this year, but it's a project that really has no end. So the window will continue to grow as we facilitate more and more trade across the region. And we really look forward to welcoming you into the region to come and work with us, maybe as a first-time entrant or hopefully as a long-standing customer. Because the positivity and the benefit that we can bring to trade is something we're very proud of, and it's something we protect very fiercely in terms of the Emirate. The improvements that we've talked about, I just wanted to iterate at the end of my little piece here. But I can only say thank you to the other partners that are on this conference with us today. The other speakers are all part of our journey. Again, being MACTA, being that bridge between trade and the digital, we're super happy with. So thank you very much, everyone. I didn't want to take up too much time with technical jargon, so I hope I've helped understand a little about trade facilitation in the region, and hopefully piqued some interest in talking to us some more.
Thank you very much, Carol. I must say, amazing innovation, amazing progress, and amazing partnership. And now I'm learning, Magda, about bridging technology, bridging trade. But it's really, your message is really about bridging people, and that's Absolutely. Really. That is the core message and the core objective of the ICC World Business Organization. So we have all the right partners here together. So thank you very, very, very much. As we move forward, we're going back into the physical supply chain, and we're going to look at aviation. So our next presenter speaker is Martin Drew, Senior Vice President, Etihad Aviation Group. And Martin, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us, and I'm really looking forward to your insights on trends in cargo, but your own experience maybe a little bit on evolving out of the pandemic and where we go from here. Martin.
Great, thank you, Vincent. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to those wherever you are watching this, either live or recorded. Vincent, thanks for the introduction. And thanks for the opportunity to give a bit of an update and some insights on the Etihad Aviation Group. Just a little bit on myself. I took over responsibility for Etihad Cargo back at the beginning of November. And in addition to cargo, I also have responsibility for passenger sales. And my goodness, you couldn't see two contrasting businesses at the moment. Obviously, on the passenger side, things continue to be pretty sort of tough in terms of the market environment, but on the flip side of that, cargo is something that is is been very strong throughout this crisis. Sorry, just trying to move to the next slide. So yeah, so just in terms of pre-COVID cargo, just give you an idea of what cargo represented in terms of the total business for Etihad. So cargo represented about 15% of our total revenue. Now it sits at 45%. So a massive sort of change, and a clear indication of just how critically important cargo has become to the business. And of course, though, as a combination carrier, that passenger demand element is key to our long-term financial sustainability. So therefore, we are really heavily focused, of course, on trying to rebuild passenger confidence while, of course, continuing to navigate our way through the impact of COVID, be it with the second waves, new variances in terms of the countries continuing to enforce strict sort of restrictions, lockdowns, and countries taking different approaches. It makes it difficult in terms of trying to navigate our way through that and to see where that passenger demand is going to return. And I think it's going to be like this for the foreseeable future, even with the rollout of the vaccine underway. What you see here in terms of the slide, this is our latest marketing campaign, but really is re-emphasizing the lengths that we're going to ensure the wellness of our guests, including continuing to be the only airline that requires 100% PCR testing at both ends. And this has been in place since August of last year. And what this does is really give our guests peace of mind that everybody on board that aircraft has tested negative. And you can see here, this is our latest campaign, sort of the We Choose Negative Guest campaign, which really re-emphasizes the lengths that we're going to restore passenger confidence. Moving on to cargo, next slide. From a cargo perspective, as I mentioned, it's quite a different story to what we've seen on the passenger side. Last year, IATA stated that international belly capacity reduced by 44%. For Etihad pre-COVID, 70% of our cargo was carried in the belly and 30% on our freighters. So of course, that reduction in belly capacity as a result of the reduction initially, the suspension of passenger services had a big impact, and we needed to react very quickly from a cargo standpoint. And what we did is within 24 hours of all of our flights, passenger services being suspended, which actually happened on the 24th of March, a day that I don't think we'll ever forget in Etihad, we reacted very quickly and started to deploy passenger aircraft purely for cargo purposes. We termed them as passenger freighters, and then within 48 hours, we've established a schedule deploying 6 passenger aircraft purely for cargo purposes, and then started to build from there. Of course, in addition to continuing to operate the freighters, the dedicated freighters that we have. So throughout 2020, Etihad Cargo we worked on really focusing on providing cargo capacity. In those markets and to our customers that needed it most. In addition to that, the UAE launched a huge aid program, donating a sizable amount of PPE to various countries around the world. And of course, our part, the part that Etihad played in that was the distribution of that aid. And we ended up, as you can see here, we operated over 250 flights, carried 2.5 million kilos, and operated to a large number of destinations, many of which we'd never operated to before. But again, that was just a demonstration of just how agile we were and how quickly we were able to react to the pandemic. So from a fleet perspective, and important to point out, this is currently what the active fleet consists of. As you can see here, we're operating a large number, and this is core to the fleet, the 787. So this is the -9 and -10 variants. This is core to the fleet today and will continue very much to be our core fleet type going forwards. But in addition to that, we have the 777s that we continue to operate and operate primarily for cargo purposes. And on top of that, we also have 5 777s where we've actually removed the seats. So we're now able to load in cabin in terms of loose cargo. Plus, we also have the production-built 777 freighters as well, which, as I'm sure you'll expect, are, these aircraft are being worked very hard at the moment. They're averaging about 16.5 hours a day in terms of utilization, and we're constantly looking to see how we can optimize the schedule even more. From a products perspective, what this crisis has seen is, of course, we saw the PPE phenomenon last year, and what we're now starting to see is some normalcy sort of return in terms of the product mix. That phenomenon of the PPE, that's something that we won't see again, but we really did also see an explosion in terms of e-com demand, and that is, of course, something that we will see this year and beyond. And of course, as you would expect from a pharmaceutical perspective, a lot of growth in that side. And of course, that's linked to the distribution of the vaccine as well. So specifically around pharma, because of the strong demand that we were seeing even pre-COVID, we had rebranded our pharma product. We'd gone back and we'd looked to see how we can improve the processes around pharma. We've become sort of IATA CIV pharma accredited as well. We've brought in more expertise in terms of sort of pharma expertise. And as a result, we actually saw a 50% growth in pharmaceutical products carried next year. So very much linked to this is the when we talk about partnerships, and partnerships, I think we can all agree become even more important to businesses, particularly when you go through crisis such as we're going through. A key partnership for us that has developed and was created at the tail end of 2020 was the HOPE Consortium. So basically, this is Abu Dhabi cementing itself as a global distribution hub for the COVID vaccine. It's a consortium that's led by the Abu Dhabi Department of Health and comprises of various Abu Dhabi stakeholders, of course, including Etihad. It's really a unique initiative, bringing together both private and public sector members to support a full end-to-end solution for distribution of the vaccine. It also, of course, includes procurement of the vaccine. And really what this does is, as the previous speakers have mentioned about as well, it really leverages Abu Dhabi's geographic position of being within a 4-hour flight of 2/3 of the world's population. And there's a real sort of long-term play around this to create Abu Dhabi as a global hub for pharma and life sciences. As we sort of move forwards and look at into the future, in terms of continuing that theme of Abu Dhabi as a logistics hub, and really cementing it in the position where Abu Dhabi sort of does become an even more of a key player in the logistics world. We have, I think, as Carl outlined with Makta, together with the various stakeholders in Abu Dhabi, including ADP, KIZAD, and I think there's a great example of when these stakeholders come together, what great things we can do in Abu Dhabi as relates to the HOPE Consortium. Abu Dhabi just continues to grow as a logistics hub. On the sustainability side, obviously, this is a key topic in globally, certainly in sort of within the aviation world. But I suppose here's the deal: we need to fly, but we have to do it responsibly. And we have many initiatives in place, including a partnership with Boeing, where we look to see how we can bring more sustainability into the operational side. And of course, what we're looking at is development of biofuels. We actually have a 787, a Dreamliner, which we actually call the Greenliner, that is in a special Greenliner livery. And we use this aircraft for various green initiatives, be it use of biofuels, no single-use plastics on board. And this is going to be a key focus for us going forwards. And then from a technology standpoint, we've been really focused on that. I think as Carl outlined, obviously technology is key. We have a strong partnership that's being formed with Makta in that regard. We also have continued and continue to invest heavily in terms of various platforms. We're in the process of developing a new website, looking to how we improve the customer booking experience. From an e-airway bill perspective, we've made great headway in that. We're now within the top 10 airlines in terms of e-airway bill penetration. If I think back to the cargo industry, a few years ago, we really lagged behind from a technology standpoint, but we've come an awful long way in the last few years, which is really encouraging. And of course, one of the having not been able to foresee the challenges brought by this pandemic, what has been so key for us, and I think key for all businesses as we continue through this crisis and as we start to emerge from it, is agility. And I think that's something that we've proven, that we are agile with a lot of the changes that we've made. We will continue to be agile, and that's helped us, I think, be successful throughout this crisis. And I think this is key to when we, key to us continuing to contribute to the Abu Dhabi story going forwards. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Martin. You certainly are giving us a lot of hope, and really you've been a real service to the international trade community, especially keeping supply chains open for mission critical goods into emerging markets. So really well done. You mentioned that your planes have been working hard. Well, it looks like you've been working pretty hard as well. So very well done. So we're going to move on. And as I mentioned, and Carl mentioned, I really have a great interest in railroad and trains. And this kind of stems from a journey I did once from Vladivostok, the Trans-Siberian Railway from Vladivostok to Russia many years ago. So we're turning now to Kendrick Tang of Etihad Rail. So Kendrick, please give us your vision on how you see the network unfolding and what opportunities it's going to bring to the UAE and the region, of course, and the global supply chain as we move forward.
Thank you very much, Vincent. It's a real pleasure to be here. And yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to meet your expectations around what we're doing here in the country with rail. So as Vincent mentioned, I'm the commercial director at Etihad Rail. So I'd like to walk you through what we've been up to lately and how we think the railway can add value to being part of your supply chains. Just going back a little bit in history, the railway was founded in 2009 under federal law as part of various economic diversification initiatives for the country. Basically, we were playing an important role in two ways. First, the creation of a brand new ecosystem. But most importantly, we were created as a tool that would be used by all industries in order to make them more competitive, and of course, to help reduce barriers of trade. Let me start off with some facts that actually most people don't know that a railway line actually already exists. This railway line has been operating for the past 5 years. It moves 7 million tons of sulfur quietly every year. It's located in the gas fields in Shah and Habshan, that transporting granulated sulfur from the gas fields out to the port of Ruwais for exports. The railway there has been operated by Etihad Rail in partnership with Deutsche Bahn, and has successfully transported over 34 million tons to date, and was a critical component of allowing this normally what we call a byproduct of gas extraction to be a highly valuable export commodity today. Without the railway, it would not have been possible for the UAE to be occupying the #1 spot in granulated sulfur exports. And this was just in a span of 5 years. So what have we been doing? This is the railway network that we're looking at in the UAE today. So if you can see here, this is stage 1, where we've been, as mentioned earlier, operating for the past 5 years. We're now developing the rail backbone of the UAE, connecting the border of Saudi Arabia all the way to the other side in Fujairah, on the coast of Fujairah, sorry. As we go along this main line, we then touch on very important industrial sites as well as infrastructure, such as the industrial cluster at Ruwais, the industrial city of Abu Dhabi and ICCAD, Of course, the UAE flagship port, Khalifa Port, Dubai Industrial City, Jebel Ali Port, the Al Ghail region out in the Northern Emirates, as well as the port of Fujairah. We've already finished a large part of construction, actually. So we've, in the span of about a year or so, we've accomplished over 25% of the construction civil works that need to be done. We've already started excavation of roughly about 85% of the tunnels in the Northern Emirates. So we're literally moving mountains here to try and develop this railway for the industries as soon as possible. In fact, the rate of construction has been really, really high, that we've actually had to build factories in order to meet the demand of the sleepers that will be put in place. Alongside, of course, the rapid clip of construction, we're in the process of tripling the fleet size of Etihad Rail in order to be able to deploy sufficient capacity that we foresee that will be needed in this country. Okay, it's important to remember that as we build what we're doing in the UAE, that this network development sits in context of a wider rail GCC plan that's been conceived since the 50s or so, where they wanted a pan-GCC railway. So as you can see, this is the GCC railway line. Etihad Rail occupies roughly 50% of that main line, and will give users of the rail then very, very important access to important regional destinations, such as those in Saudi and the rest of the GCC. What currently exists in the GCC network now is the connection between Dammam and Riyadh. There's a Dammam-Riyadh loop that was previously there for the purposes of passenger transport. It's now been converted to a freight line. There's also the north-south connection, which terminates roughly 6 kilometers from the border of Jordan, currently moving freight and passengers in Saudi Arabia. There's a high-speed line allowing passengers to move from Mecca to Medina. And of course, the very important land bridge, which will connect the Red Sea as well as the Gulf, which is under consideration today. So once more, again, we're building our network. It's going to be part of a really larger network. Some people have already alluded to the Silk Road initiatives. You can very clearly see on this map how connecting the various maritime gateways would have significant important ramifications around how people would view the region globally in terms of how they distribute goods. So what does this all mean to you, really? So when we developed the railway solutions, we spent a lot of time speaking to the market with people such as yourselves, as well as, of course, to a lot of consultants. I just wanted to really recap a little bit of what we've learned and what we've done with what we've learned in order to help you. So in principle, most people, if you're here, you're involved in some form of manufacturing or production or trade, and therefore some form of product distribution, right? In which case, you're probably sitting in the same position as most of the people I ran into when I was sitting out in China. You're facing intense global competition. Every dollar, every dirham counts. In some cases, you have investments already made in factories in certain places. They may not have the necessary connectivity you're looking for. In some instances, you're looking for that ideal location, but you're having a hard time identifying places with sufficient land. You're having a hard time identifying places with sufficient qualified labor. Sometimes the land is cheap, but there's insufficient services, or otherwise there's insufficient connectivity, meaning that you're not connected to the ports. You're not connected to a logistics infrastructure that allows you to to move away from focusing on logistics and focusing on what you do best, which is produce, right? Railway is unique as a solution in as much that we not only provide a transport solution, but we're the only transport solution today that requires infrastructure. And therefore, part of that solution is the infrastructure. In this case, we're talking about our rail terminals. So in our rail terminals, what we foresee is we build and we carefully select the locations of our facilities. We carefully look at what other types of infrastructure exists there so that we can bring an infrastructure solution that really helps you, right? So no longer will you have to try and struggle to pick a place. You really just need to pick an area where rail is there, which then gives you connectivity to other UAE pieces of infrastructure. The rail will bring services of those infrastructure as well as ours to your backyard effectively. Once more, it allows you to then focus about production. Every dirham counts, which means you must be spending all your time producing and distributing your goods. Which then leads me on to the next set of issues that most people encounter as they look into regional distribution. What is no secret today is that roughly 50% or so, if not more, of the cargo that is bound for the GCC touches a UAE port in some way, shape, or form. Which, you know, this is actually quite an important fact. The UAE sits today as a top 10 maritime port in the world in terms of volume, surpassing countries such as Germany, right? So the reason for that is the regional distribution. Unfortunately, there's an issue with regional distribution today in the form of the border. So what most people encounter at the border is that they're encountering uncertain lead times, anywhere from 3 to 7 days. Of course, this uncertainty not only creates delay if you're wrong in terms of what buffer you're using, but of course, then you create problems by having buffers, right? And so it creates unnecessary, what I call just-in-case logistics costs. What we've developed, therefore, and what we've agreed with the various GCC countries, because we're working in coordination with them, is a borderless solution. So if you picture yourself, let's say in KIZAD, no longer will you have to then take your truck, go to the border, stop at the border, perform immigration, then go through customs, then go through inspection. You can simply actually then go to the rail terminal, perform your export. It's then imported on the other side with no border stop. So we've eliminated that border stop, creating a solution that will not only be faster than ship, it'll also be cheaper than trucks. We are operating large North American style trains, meaning they will be 1 kilometer up to 2 kilometers long is what was agreed at the GCC level. We'll be carrying double stack container trains, allowing us to move roughly 300 containers per move. Therefore, a much cheaper alternative in terms of unit rates. And of course, you know, with the advent of COVID, everybody's been a bit more focused on supply chain risk. The advent of a very reliable transport solution that's also very cheap then provides you additional options, giving people resilient supply chains in order for them to deliver exactly what people need at the right cost. I'd like to end today by just showing you where we are in Khalifa Port and in KIZAD and what we've got planned. As you can see, we have many, many plans for Khalifa Port and KIZAD. So here you can see that our rail station actually is indeed berth side. The terminals of ADT, MSC is located here, as well as Costco. It's the only container intermodal facility that will accommodate the maximum train length of 2 kilometers. Today, the trains will be 1.2 kilometers long, but this is the only location where the trains will end up being 2 kilometers long. We're looking at a development here that will go right into Khalifa Port South Quay, allowing our break bulk project cargo moves to be possible by rail. We have a facility here onshore that sits just outside of the Gate 6 border gates in order to accommodate some future expansion on the KIZAD area. We have as well a planned marshalling station here that would allow us to modulate, so speed up or slow down various supply chains depending on the levels of congestion. And of course, we have another facility here that we're looking at for planned minerals and aggregates, and another possible multimodal platform for the tenants who are sitting out in the KIZAD B area. I hope that this has been helpful. I hope that it has helped you get a better understanding of where we are today. I'd like to thank once again everyone for their time.
Well, Kendrick, you have really taken us on a really visionary rail journey, and it was really so exciting. And, you know, as we are actually seeing, rail is playing a much larger part of the Chinese One Belt, One Road, Silk Road initiative as we go forward. And as Nadia mentioned, China now the largest trade partner of the UAE. So wonderful. And that borderless solution sounds like it's a game changer to me. So moving forward and trying to bring all of this together, I'm going to turn to Venkata Pispati, who's head of logistics cluster at KIZAD. And Venkata, there's a lot going on here, okay? An awful lot going on here, a lot of innovation. So maybe in your short period of time, you can show us how the KIZAD platform can bring all of these various elements together. Over to you.
I'll try my best, Vincent, I promise to.
I believe you.
A very good afternoon to everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to present to all of you the incredible journey that KIZAD has had, and to bring you up to speed with all the developments here.
And while Venkata is putting on the presentation, just to mention, we're getting many questions here, but my colleague Mansoor from KIZAD, he will actually manage the questions a little bit later, but many from many different countries. Venkata, back to you.
Sure, thank you. So as we start with the session, it is important to highlight just how much Abu Dhabi has further consolidated its position as a preferred global industrial investment destination, built on three fundamental elements: diversification, industrialization, and reduced dependency on hydrocarbons. To support this compelling vision, Abu Dhabi's ranking in the Ease of Doing Business Index has gone up several places and is placed at number 12 today in the world. All investors and workers are extremely proud to be counted as being amongst the top 30 economies globally as per World Bank GDP rankings, live in the happiest city, which Abu Dhabi is in the Arab region as per World Happiness Report, reside in the safest city in the world as per Internations, and be part of the top 25 best cities for expats globally as per Numbeo. We are Abu Dhabi Ports. KIZAD is a wholly owned subsidiary of Abu Dhabi Ports. The industrial zones portfolio under Abu Dhabi Ports consists of 5 industrial areas. KIZAD is located right in the middle of Abu Dhabi and Dubai cities. As we go into Abu Dhabi, we have the industrial city of Abu Dhabi, popularly known as ICAD. Towards the east, located closest to the Oman border, is the Al Ain industrial city, and Al Faya industrial city is in the middle of Abu Dhabi and the eastern province. Together, these industrial zones comprise of over 1,500 companies, and the 5 industrial areas are an important integral part of Abu Dhabi's Economic Vision 2030 and directly contributes to the diversification drive of Abu Dhabi. KIZAD is the largest industrial zone in the region, if not the world, with a total land bank of 410 square kilometers. As you can see from the slide, the zone is spread across 2 areas on either side of the Sheikh Zayed Highway. One of the most unique features is that KIZAD hosts both domestic land and free zone areas in the same ecosystem. And most importantly, we are integrated with Khalifa Port as a port integrated platform we target to contribute at least 15% of Abu Dhabi's total non-oil and gas GDP in the next 10 years by 2030. From a location perspective, KIZAD and Abu Dhabi, as you can see, is based right at the center of the Emirates and the Western region bordering Saudi Arabia. All goods and services that need to be employed targeting the large GCC markets have to necessarily pass through KIZAD. We are located closest to the Saudi Arabian border on the western side and closest to the Oman border on the east. For connections within the UAE, there is unparalleled easy access to highways like the Mohammed bin Zayed 311 that connects the entire length and breadth of the UAE. The success and developments at Khalifa Port have been integral to the developments and success that we have had at KIZAD. Khalifa Port hosts 2 container terminals, each having concession agreements, one with Mediterranean Shipping Company and the other with COSCO Shipping. We have a terminal dedicated to the services of the automotive industry, established in joint venture with Auto Terminal Barcelona. And recently, Abu Dhabi Ports has set up a 50-year concession agreement with Arabian Chemical Tankers for handling of chemicals and other downstream liquid products. These have meant large expansion projects at Khalifa Port, including new dredging of channels, more vessel berths, and in addition, new areas for dry bulk cargo with facilities also dedicated to logistics and product fulfillment for KIZAD customers at the Khalifa Port Logistics Center, which I'll of course explain in a little while from now. As a result, KIZAD will be home to one of the largest port terminals for container cargo, for automotive, and for future connectivity options for customers on Etihad Rail. We have 2 dedicated rail berths, one in KIZAD and one inside Khalifa Port. We have a number of expansions in progress at the port. Abu Dhabi Terminals, operated in joint venture with Mediterranean Shipping Company, MSC, is seeing an expansion underway with a total investment of $400 million, which will double capacity from the current 2.5 million TEUs to 5 million TEUs. Also include on the infrastructure side, 10 new cranes, altogether be a significant upgrade of port capacity. Khalifa Port also hosts COSCO Shipping CSP Terminal, who incidentally had their first anniversary last April, and we're extremely proud to share that they have already surpassed half a million TEUs annual throughput and look very well set to see much bigger milestones ahead. Now, these developments have also meant that our integrated platform offers global capacity. Now, for instance, the CSP terminal of COSCO Shipping has a new European offering new connectivity in Europe, and in addition, introduced new services connecting the Indian subcontinent region as well. Now, Abu Dhabi Terminals, on the other hand, has also added new services with mainliners now offering additional services to the Mediterranean and the Red Sea regions. And these combine services that link North and East Asian ports. Now, apart from these liner services, Abu Dhabi Ports has launched the Safine feeders, which was done in July last year. These services are ensuring even better connectivity with the Indian subcontinent and Upper Gulf ports with Khalifa Port. Safine feeders has launched new coastal services, which now ensure that all coastal parts in the UAE will be covered by this service being rendered here. So, for instance, no more waiting for mainland carriers to transfer Abu Dhabi bound containers from other UAE ports. These will be picked up directly by Safine feeders into Khalifa Port, thereby reducing transit times, even in events where services call other ports before dropping the cargo off at Abu Dhabi or Khalifa Port, as you may call it. While these cover the container mode of transport, we also, as many of you are already aware, have a thriving state-of-the-art auto terminal with 17,000 vehicles capacity at any given point of time. We have also recently unveiled a first-of-its-kind technical center at the auto terminal, where we are offering customers pre-delivery inspections, accessory fittings, car washing and polishing on-site, and smart repairs. Now, this brings us to let's say the latest momentous milestone that we have had at Khalifa Port, which is the South Quay Development Project. This is a $600 million project, which will feature a new 3-kilometer quay wall with an 18.5-meter draft to ensure that the most modern, big-sized vessels can call at the terminal. This will also feature 8 new berths. All these upgrades and expansion at Khalifa Port not only enables domestic dramatic growth in bulk and general cargo opportunities, it also demonstrates Abu Dhabi Ports' firm commitment in supporting individual needs of both existing and new customers. Now, the second milestone is the development of the Khalifa Port Logistics Center, which I just covered a little while earlier. This is an additional 3.1-kilometer quay wall. We have diversified our infrastructure offerings a little more to offer higher scale. Now, this will mean we have berths ranging from as small as 8 meters up to as large as 60 meters. And this significant land bank behind this will feature up to 15 berths, which can handle small vessels up to the large vessels. Now, coming to announcement made even this week, as some of you must have picked up from the press earlier this week, Abu Dhabi Ports has signed a 50-year land lease agreement with Anchorage Investment for Khalifa Port to host a grain storage and processing plant to be managed by National Feed, one of the largest agro commodity processors in Abu Dhabi. So, as you've all seen, while we have the hard infrastructure set up and commissioned, we've always realized as to how important it is to set up the soft infrastructure in parallel to ensure that these investments are serviced and experienced in the best manner possible. Earlier, we have heard from Carl Hemos, the Chief Operating Officer of Makta Gateway, as to how well and efficient the digital platform has been developed and has helped actually Abu Dhabi integrate with the trade and the rest of the world in a most efficient way. KIZAD's value proposition is broadly defined under 5 main levers: cost, speed, and scale on one side, and the predictability quotient for investors to draw more and maximum efficiency, and a community platform where we regularly host our companies together and create business and networking opportunities for our investors. Cost is extremely and critical for the success of KIZAD. While we have easy access to major upstream manufacturing capacities in Abu Dhabi that provide feedstock across a number of industries, our utility rates are lower by at least 25 to 40% compared to the rest of the country. It's also important to remember that KIZAD offers the most cost-efficient business setup platforms in the country. Just to give you all a quick overview, our packages include pre-approval fees, annual workstation lease, establishment card fees, and discount packages on license issuances and renewals. Now, apart from this, the Abu Dhabi government has stepped in and has exempted registration and license fees for 2 years and has waived security deposits for all workstation facilities. Now, just kind of go back a little. We are all aware of the severe cash flow challenges posed by the pandemic, especially last year. The Abu Dhabi government again stepped in, announced a wide range of stimulus packages to support industry, sustain economic activity, and facilitate businesses overall. Now, these included SME credit guarantee schemes, deferment of loans and mortgages for both industry owners as well as individuals. There were rebates announced on rental value across a number of service sectors and discounts offered on industrial land lease for new contracts. So overall, with cost and speed covered as elements, it becomes extremely important for startup investors to have scale so as to ensure that they can test run the business models, phase their market reach in the best possible manner. At KIZAD, businesses can initiate their presence with a small, simple license, follow that up with a warehouse that's pre-built by us, and then acquire land as the business grows. We have pre-built warehouses and light industrial units with office space included, with sizes ranging from as small as 300 square meters up until 1,500 square meters. Now, these units come with power capacities of as high as 250 kilowatts. We are building labor accommodation facilities ourselves, with the first phase expected to be complete by end of this year, to offer approximately 9,000 beds in the first phase, with room sizes that can house 2 up to 8 persons, depending on each company's requirements. We spoke about community systems and how important building a strong community and ecosystem is to us. With all primary and secondary infrastructure all set up and delivered, our next phase of developments include, apart from the labor accommodation facilities I spoke about, a community center, a dedicated truck terminal for truck maintenance, repair, and parking. Apart from this, we will also have residential and leisure facilities and with a full range of community offerings in a way that KIZAD offers a comprehensive work-life balance ecosystem. And on that note, I'd like to thank all of you for being with us today. I might have taken a couple of more minutes, but as you can see, we have had a number of developments, and considering that we haven't had the chance to be able to have this public engagement in quite some time, especially around logistics, I'm just so happy that we're all here together today. So with that, Vincent, it's over to you, and please take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Venkata. Maybe a few extra minutes, but an awful lot of extra valuable information. So I think we can manage that. So KIZAD, a wonderful proposition for trade and the supply chain. So I'm going to turn to my colleague Mansour. We've got many questions coming in, so this session could go on for a long time if we had time. But over to Mansour to manage a few questions for our key presenters, speakers. Mansour.
Indeed, Vincent, it's been really a very engaging webinar so far. We've had a lot of comments and questions that have been coming through the past, let's say, hour or so, and we've already crossed the time dedicated for this, but the number of people who are already still actively participating shows the real value of this webinar around what we have been discussed. So I'll just spend the next 10 minutes or so, picking up few questions that we received from the participant, and then we'll ask our distinguished speakers to address these questions accordingly. So first question I have here that we received, this is for Nadia from NAFL. Nadia, we have a question, asking about, NAFL has a very strong presence in the UAE and the region. And how do you see, from your views, the role of NAFL in its new office that will be established in Abu Dhabi, and how we see the emerging platforms in the logistics space going to take place in the Emirate of Abu Dhabi? So Nadia, over to you. You're on mute, Nadia.
Thank you, Mr. Mansour. Basically, our office is representing the entire UAE, but we were based in Dubai. And right now, we are going to be also physically fully based in Abu Dhabi to fully support the members. Now, the services are holistic services. We will be offering all the relevant services, ensuring our members are highlighted, branded regionally and over the global platform that we have in 150 countries. Secretariat services, our staff, and also our close work with the government entities, with the national airlines and the aviation group, the airports, the customs on a federal level and within Abu Dhabi will help us at least focus on solving any industry issues, opening any bottlenecks, and working on opportunities, working on improving the trade with different countries, as well as when you have trade, you'll definitely have logistics. When you have more manufacturing, there will be logistics needed. So we will be focusing on that. We will be focusing on supporting the logistic investors also in Abu Dhabi, also the ones in KIZAD in terms of capacity building, training, personalized training, delegation visits. We've done that before, inbound and outbound. So we will be working closer on that. We will be focusing more, I would say, immensely on solving industry issues, because most of the government decision-making authorities are based in Abu Dhabi, especially when it comes to relation to the logistics industry. So that will be our main focus. Abu Dhabi being a strategic logistic hub with immense investments in the logistics industry will definitely impact our industry in the UAE, and we need to reassure and bring out the members to come and grab that market share, to facilitate the way for them to come and set up in Abu Dhabi, to assist them also. What we will be doing is to assist them to get in touch with the traders under the umbrella of NAFL, or the International Chamber of Commerce, the Trade Commission. I head both, so this is my main focus, is to get them engaged with the traders, with the manufacturers, and offer the traders and manufacturers the world-class services from our logistic members and freight members. Connecting the airlines with the forwarders is something very critical. Connecting our national airline, award-winning national airline, with our members at NAFL is also very critical. So we will be able to leverage on our presence in Abu Dhabi and create more synergy between our members, the trading industry, as well as the government entities and the national airline, the ports authority, and the logistics services within Abu Dhabi.
Thank you very much, Nadia. Really insightful feedback, and we're really looking forward in terms of how we can further develop within Abu Dhabi Emirates footprint. So just to move on, I'm looking at the questions. The next question we received is for Martin from Etihad Cargo, as we see. The question, as we see here, is that we see generally a lot of interest in the market where coming through the new development of the new airport in Abu Dhabi, and how this new development can really bring and add value to the logistics infrastructure within the Emirate of Abu Dhabi and beyond. How can you tell us about this Etihad Cargo new terminal that should come through, and how would this build a strong logistic platform from Abu Dhabi to the world?
First of all, Mansur, can you, I don't think you can see me. I seem to have a problem with my camera, but can you hear me?
Yes, hear you.
Yes,
loud.
we can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, maybe it's a good thing you can't see me. Apologies. In terms of the development at the airport, so the new cargo terminal is something that is still something that's very much sort of in the planning stage, and it's something that's we are looking to develop. But I mean, what we look at is obviously the existing infrastructure that we have at the airport in terms of the cargo terminal, the cargo village. We have plans for the cargo village, for example. I talked in my presentation about the importance in terms of the pharma vertical, the growth that we've seen in that space, and of course what we're seeing now with the distribution of the vaccine, the Hope Consortium, and everything linked to that. So the pharma piece in particular is critically important to our business now and going forward. So with the cargo village, we are looking to see how we expand, how we create more cold store capabilities, and that's something that we have in the pipeline for this year. And this is building on, of course, we still, we currently have cold store capabilities within the cargo terminal itself, but we're looking where that demand is growing as much as it is. We're looking to see, okay, how can we increase our capabilities on airport from a cold store perspective? Of course, again, we work very closely with our friends at KIZAD, and as was outlined in the presentation, the storage capabilities that are there at KIZAD in terms of cold store is pretty phenomenal, to say the least. So obviously between the two of us, we have sizable sort of capabilities from a cold store perspective. But as I said, in terms of on airport capabilities, we're looking to expand that with using the cargo village. Again, as relates to the development of the new cargo terminal, something that's still very much in the planning stage. But as with the midfield terminal, which everybody has seen take shape and everything else, and when that opens, we know that is going to be a game-changing facility for the airline, and much will be the same when we it will just add further to our capabilities when the new cargo terminal is further open. But I think, again, a point to reiterate, the facilities that we have available to us today are very good. And as I said, we're looking on an interim basis to look to see how we expand those in terms of specifically around our cold store capabilities.
Excellent, Martin. And I believe we've seen through the current, logistical solutions that were really urgently required to really serve the emergency kind of situation we went through during last year. And as we continue and grow, the integration of how, the current existing infrastructure within the Emirate of Abu Dhabi or even beyond can be integrated with the logistics infrastructure that exists within the terminals across the country. And this is a clear example of the integration between the cold stores and the terminal in terms of cargo movement and etc. So thank you very much, Martin. The next question we have received is for Etihad Rail. So Mr. Kendrick, I believe you've touched upon it during your presentation, and one of the main advantages is that the seamless movement between the GCC states also as we progress throughout the development. But the question we received is that with most GCC economies rolling out the railway network, there has been a lot of discussion around how respective GCC railway organizations would work together on offering the trade seamless and easy and fast logistic solutions. How do you see that integration going with other GCC states?
Thank you for the question, Mansoor. Look, I think there's still lots of work to do, right? Which is why we're super busy with it. A lot of people here already touched upon the fact that it's not good enough to have hard infrastructure. You need the soft infrastructure. This is the part that really needs working on. Now, what's already been agreed is that we will do origin destination services. So the fact that it will be viewed as borderless is already pretty much fait accompli. Okay. What we're working through now are the actual procedural changes that are required and what kind of documents, what kind of regulatory framework will then govern some of these things. I already see it in two fronts, right? One is at the GCC working level. So every GCC country has an Etihad Rail representative where we hold regular workshops and committee meetings to try and tackle these important issues. The second area where I'm seeing it is by virtue of the fact that both countries have signed World Customs Organization's trade facilitation agreements already, right? So both countries are then actually committed to delivering on these trade facilitation agreement deliverables, which then help us from the top down to get to these procedures much more quickly.
Thank you very much, Kendrick. I think the established integration platforms that were set between the GCC states creates the right fundamental framework for this right integration to really bring the right value for the end users. So my next question I have here would go to my colleague, Mr. Carl Hummus from Maqta Gateway. Mr. Carl, we have a question here that we've seen the integration between all of the players through the digital platform, but the question here is that how has been the nature of the dialogue between the strategic business units, customers generally, and other stakeholders in the framework, and bringing them all under one umbrella and creating the right value for all users?
That's a great question. Thank you, Mansoor. And I think it was a huge challenge this last year because we did a lot of this work during COVID. So I think where traditionally, particularly in the freight world, we all like to get together and sit in a room for hours talking about our problems and how to fix them. We were doing it remotely. So it was a huge amount of stakeholder management and stakeholder engagement. Virtually bringing people together through the same medium as we're on today in terms of Teams or other methods, and really listening to the voice of the customer. I think we've had a couple of technical studies done as well with partners looking at the customer journey and really mapping the pain points of people as they go through the transactions at the port, or as you know from KIZAD, we've spent many hours with KIZAD customers and the KIZAD team looking at where we can digitalize, looking at where the most value comes from in terms of our solutions. So I think it's been all about that engagement, and it will continue to be forever. Technology is only as good as the solution you give and the hands that you put it in. And I think it's really important that our technology fits the purpose and is cut for the people that need to use it. And I think we've done a good job so far, and I think we've done a good job of pairing people together. But it's always going to be a challenge. And I think it's something we'll always continue to work at, is engaging the users of our systems in their building and in their development.
Thank you, Carl, for your really efficient and brief response here. In a minute of time, I'll just pick up one last question before I pass it back to Vincent for the closing. So the last question I have here is for Venkat. Venkat, we have a question from the viewers asking whether logistic companies operating in the free zone at KIZAD can offer services to companies in the mainland. Is this something possible?
Thank you, Mansoor. It is not possible for them to offer services in the mainland. They will have to have a license from DED and then kind of offer any kind of services that the customers require. The free zone companies would be able to liaise with free zone freight forwarders, and as such, those solutions are built accordingly. Having said that, as you're aware, we have a number of initiatives, being rolled out in transition from the government, where there is a likelihood that we may have opportunities for more companies to come and operate in the mainland, but we are still awaiting policy framework on that and some of the other underlying elements.
Thank you, Venkat. And indeed, there has been a lot of policies that would attract different, foreign direct investments and ownership elements that allows freedom of more, ownership and movement of goods and people across different jurisdictional structures. So indeed, there is a lot coming for this sector specifically. So with that, Vincent, we end up our Q&A session. Back to you for the closing.
Thank you very much, Mansoor. A very well done job. You did a great job. So I really want to thank especially our participants who have stayed with us. And there is so much interest in this and so many follow-on questions that maybe we need to think about having another session together at some point in time in the not too distant future, as this is moving fast. So ladies and gentlemen, panelists, multimodal logistics and logistics industrial ecosystem for the global supply chain, Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. Well, Mansoor, Nadia, Carl, Martin, Kendrick, Venkata, and of course, Habib from ICC UAE. Thank you all, and we really appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye now to everyone. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
See
you.
you soon. See you soon.
See you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
ICC UAE makes it possible.